Hi, this is Rafa of Los Filipinos, and this is part 2 of our Quiapo Adventure series. In part 1, we discussed how the descendants of a Filipino Hidalgo ended up in Hidalgo, Quiapo, and how vibrant and upscale Quiapo was even during pre-World War II Manila. But what does Quiapo look like right now, particularly Hidalgo? Well, that's what this episode is all about, and we shall talk about the cultural heritage issues related to Quiapo and how it is related to the efforts in preserving Filipino Spanish. To this end, Los Filipinos attended a walking tour offered by Renacimiento Manila to see what is left of this once ritzy street called Hidalgo in Quiapo. Plus, we had the bonus of visiting a famous house, the Bahay Nakpil, home of the Katipuneros. As you will see, there's a lot of history that needs to be preserved here in Quiapo. The question is, are you willing to help? So, are you ready? Let's dive into this.
The focus will be on the major points along the Quiapo Heritage Tour, starting with San Sebastian Church, through Hidalgo Street, then to Quiapo Church, and then finally to Bahay Nakpil. The tour started off at Bake Right along Legarda Street near the corner of Recto. The first stop, the historic San Sebastian Church, made of steel to withstand earthquakes. The structure looks strong and sturdy, except for one big problem. The church is rusting and needs a major overhaul. So while majestic from the outside and the inside, the building itself is in disrepair and needs major conservation efforts. From San Sebastian Church, the next major point in this video is Hidalgo Street itself, formerly known as Calle San Sebastian, the former Forbes Park of Quiapo. Hidalgo Street is a mix of old and new, of decay and renovation. Not quite here nor there. Most of the old estates of the rich were donated to religious organizations, and only a few old buildings have survived. So, the street holds an eclectic collection of religious houses, antique and modern structures, and high-rise condominiums and buildings. Next was a walk through the underpass all the way to Quiapo Church, home of the Black Nazarene. This underpass, the Lacson Underpass, was constructed in the 1960s and thereby divided this zone into two parts thereafter. So to go to the Nakpil house back to the other side, the tour had to walk up the overpass this time. Finally, the tour ends on a high note, with a tour of the Bahay Nakpil along Bautista Street, perpendicular to Hidalgo. Not a lot of people might know that famous Katipuneros used to live in this house, especially the wife of Andres Bonifacio, Gregoria de Jesus, who eventually married into the Nakpil family, itself a very famous family. In the future, we will have a separate episode on Bahay Nakpil, which deserves its own episode really.
There's so much to be said, but one cannot capture the rich cultural history of Quiapo in just one short YouTube video. That's just impossible. Instead, let me just share some of my takeaways. Missing buildings mean missing stories. Missing stories mean broken narratives. Broken narratives mean a broken sense of history, and the broken sense of history mean a damaged Filipino identity. Quiapo looks to be a perfect metaphor for the state of Filipino Spanish in itself, in need of preservation as a heritage language. Instead of missing buildings, we have missing speakers, most of whom are gone, with very few that still remain. Their stories are absent from the official narratives. This leads to a broken sense of narratives, which then leads to a broken sense of what Spanish meant to Filipinos, and this would lead to a broken sense of Filipino identity, with often the unwillingness to acknowledge Spanish as a part of Filipino cultural heritage. As for Quiapo, there are new buildings and new developments which seem to scream out with the old and in with the new. But should these old buildings be demolished in favor of modern high-rise condominiums and new establishments? This in itself is an interesting metaphor for the new generation of Filipino Spanish speakers who may be unaware that Spanish was much more widely spoken than they previously imagined. Should modern Spanish totally supplant the old Filipino Spanish which was spoken by previous generations? Should we forget our variant of Spanish in favor of peninsular and Latin American varieties? Or is there a place for both to coexist, to evolve in the Filipino Spanish that our forebears would have been proud of? So what do you think? Do you approve of parts of Quiapo being converted into cultural heritage sites? Are you willing to help? What about your thoughts on Spanish being a Filipino heritage language? Do you see the parallels? Share us your thoughts and comment down below. More importantly, please like and subscribe to our channel to continue supporting our advocacy here on YouTube. Also, we highly encourage our viewers to attend the Quiapo Heritage Tours by Renacimiento Manila, as well as the Bahay Nakpil Tours. There is so much to learn that cannot be accommodated in one video. So, we highly encourage that you attend these tours yourself. With that, we end our short Quiapo Adventure series, and we'll see you again in the next episode. Vivan los Filipinos! Mabuhay ang mga Filipino!